Welcome to Beyond Measure. Parchment cardstock, antique linen Tim Holtz Distress ink, and our Daily Bread Designs grunge butterfly background stamp are the ingredients for the recipe at hand. Woohoo! This is the first time to use a Spellbinder's Nestability Labels 3. This particular cuddle bug has a recipe of ACDCBC. For cutting and for embossing, the recipe is AD Card Mat Chip BB. All together now, AD Card Mat Chip BB. For a variegated vintage look, I used Hug Snug Seam Binding, the Milled Lavender Distress Marker, spritz of water, and roll, roll, roll your ribbon on the mat today. We'll stamp on parchment cardstock for our focal mat. The stamp of choice is from our Daily Bread Designs, and it's called God's Love. For our ink, we're using Milled Lavender Distress Marker. Then I'll ink the Scripture 6 series from our Daily Bread Designs with archival ink in sepia. This butterfly is from, you guessed it, our Daily Bread Designs. It's from a set called Two-Step Butterflies. And for ink, we're using Milled Lavender Distress Marker. Now we'll stamp on an inkjet transparency on the printable side. You may stamp with any kind of ink. I experimented with color, and later you'll see that I ended up using the Dusty Concord Tim Holtz Distress ink for my butterfly. Next up is the Uber Butterfly 2 die from our Daily Bread Designs. Again, the recipe for cutting is ACDCBC, meaning A plate, C plate, die, cardstock, B plate, and scrap cardstock. No rhyme or reason, just having some fun with the distress marker in milled lavender. Spritz with water, then use the paintbrush for an added watercolor effect. Woohoo! We get to cut again! You may use these dies in all of your favorite die cutting machines, not electronic ones though. And what is the cutting recipe? ACDCBC. With these custom dies, you'll need to be sure and line them up beautifully, enabling you to get the perfect cut every time. I'm inking the edge of my focal label with the Tim Holtz Distress Marker in Milled Lavender. This is something really cool you can also do with your Spellbinder's Nestabilities. Using Vintage Photo Tim Holtz Distress ink, I'm lightly going around the edge of the nestability. Then I inked around the edge with Walnut Stain. Next up, we'll stamp Happy Birthday on our focal point with Tim Holtz Distress ink in Walnut Stain. Up next are some little bitty clear stamps by Prima. They are so fabulous and super cute too. We'll use the Milled Lavender Tim Holtz Distress Marker plus the Bundled Sage Distress Marker by Tim Holtz for inking up our stamp. I am delighted to see the quality of these stamps. Woohoo! Next up is the Crafter's Companion Ultimate Tool. We're scoring along the body of all of the butterflies that we've cut out. You can simply fold them, but I tried that and it wasn't working out so great for me. Next up, it's time to take measurements for our frill in the awesome Make the Cut software. Cut, cut, cut in my electronic die cutting machine. Up next is the Xyron Create a Sticker Machine. It's the 5-inch one, and the crowd roars. The Xyron is such a blessing. We're adhering our 2 front prepared cardstock and paper pieces. Woohoo! Next up, we get to use this stamp again. It stamps so beautifully with the Tim Holtz Distress ink in antique linen. This is the tag piece. Now I'm inking the edges with Walnut Stain. Distress ink by Tim Holtz. I love my We Are Memory Keepers Big Bite. Marking the center of the tag with little pencil, gluing a reinforcer onto the center, Our big bite punches the hole beautifully. Take a piece of your custom-dyed, variegated vintage Hug Snug seam binding ribbon, pull through and attach to your tag. Next up is our front piece. I'm using the Fiskars paper trimmer, but feel free to use a craft knife. Cutting on 3 sides, you cut 1 1/4 inch away from each edge. We'll SCORE, score with the Crafter's Companion Ultimate Tool. First, you'll need to score from cut edge to cut edge. Then you'll measure 3/4 to 1 1/4 inch from the flap edge and score. Then you'll score in the center between both of the other score lines. Score, score! Apply adhesive to the lower part of your flap between the score and the cut edge. Adhere the edge of the tag, making sure that the tag overlaps the flap edge by just a little bit. On the reverse side of the front, you'll need to use adhesive on 3 sides. Next, adhere the back to the front. Next, we'll use the pink ATG gun by Scotch to adhere the flourish frills to our labels 3. I love Viva Decor pearl pens. This one is in opal. Dots marks the spot. No, well maybe that's X. We'll see. Oh my. Next, you'll need to measure your mat area and cut a scrap piece just a teeny bit larger than that. When satisfied with the measurement, feel free to cut out of your stamped image. Put adhesive on the back and tuck inside your mat area. At this point, you'll need to lift up the edge of your flap so that it won't get stuck at the edge of your little mat. Love the circle punch! For the little butterflies, I had the blessing of using the Spellbinder's shape abilities in Flying Beauties. I inked the edges of the butterflies. For vintage bling, we'll use the Viva Decor pearl pen in opal. Remember, for a professional result, ink all raw edges. Take the measurement from the first score line to the second score line and apply adhesive accordingly. Meow! I can hear the angels singing. Oh, it works! We'll use Tim Holtz Distress Ink in antique linen to go around the edges to give it more of a vintage look. Next, we'll use Distress Ink in walnut stain to go around the edges for a professional result. Love Glossy Accents by Ranger. It's super for adhering transparencies and just about any other surface you can think of too. Continue to adhere your embellishments to your card with glossy accents. The branches, or shall I say oak leaves, are from Martha Stewart Punch, titled Oak Leaves. The joy of the Lord is my strength. To add more life to the flutter of your butterflies, make sure that each and every one is fluttering in a different direction. Our card is complete. Thank you so very, very much for viewing. Be blessed beyond measure.